Today's video is sponsored by govern365.com, the #1 Microsoft 365 data room solution using Govern 365. In this update, we're going to take a look at what's new and cool in Microsoft 365 for the end of July and August 2023. Stay tuned, you'll learn something. Greetings, my fellow techies. How are you? Andy Malone, Microsoft MVP. A very warm welcome to my channel, especially, hey, if this is your first visit. Well, there's more news coming out of Microsoft than you can shake a big stick at. So in this episode, I thought I would take you through just some of the cool features that you definitely need to know about, which are now about to be released or will be released very shortly. Now, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, then shame on you. Bomb that subscribe button, ring that bell, and come and join my learning community. Now, if you have questions or comments or feedback, in fact, if you want to request any topics, then of course, as always, just get those down below. And if you enjoyed the session, I would appreciate it if you would really hit the like button up there. It does make a difference to the channel. So I think without any further ado, I think it's about time we jump in. What do you say? So up first is the newly announced Microsoft 365 Backup. This will give you the opportunity to back up OneDrive and Microsoft Exchange as well as SharePoint. One comment that I saw was, how do we back up Teams? Well, do remember that all Teams content is actually either stored in SharePoint or in Microsoft Exchange, and users' data is stored in OneDrive. But when you look at this solution, you just know it's going to be a winner. Now, in terms of pricing and availability, nothing's been released yet, but I'll keep you updated. So for my number 2, I can't go beyond this one, of course. Azure Active Directory has now become the Microsoft Entra Admin Center, and a newly expanded Entra Admin Center with lots of new features. Now, I'm getting comments like, oh my goodness, I don't need to relearn everything, do I, Andy? No. The good news is it's only a rebrand. And the reason is because Azure Active Directory was very close to the name of Active Directory, and it did cause a lot of confusion. So now everything to do with identity is now under the Entra brand, and you can find it here in the Entra Admin Center. And everything is here pretty much the same. If you have an E3, Business Premium, Business Standard, you'll pretty much notice no changes. However, if you do have an E5 subscription, there will be a number of security enhancements and things like conditional access. And we've also got, of course, the newly announced global secure access, which I'll come back to shortly. But for now, the big news there is that everything has been rebranded as Entra ID. Now, this is an interesting one. For my number 3, we're going to talk about Restrictive Management Admin Units, and you can find these in Entra ID. If you come into the Identity Admin Center here, if you come down to Roles and Admins, and of course we have something called Administrative Units. So what I'm going to do here is we've got regular administrative units, so I can come into this administrative unit, I can add my users and groups and so on. And I can, up until now, I could add in roles and administrators. So I could add in a user who's going to be an administrator here. Now, the problem with this is that because I am a global admin, there is nothing really to stop me going in and changing those permissions and managing these users. So with restrictive management, let's have a look at how this changes things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new administrative unit, and I'm going to call this my London office. And I could put in a descriptor here. And this is the big button here, Restricted Management Administrative Unit. Essentially what this means is you are assigning an administrator who is going to manage everybody in London, and this can include management now. this potentially could be a sensitive office. So even as a global admin, you don't want any other administrator being able to manage this. So what we're going to do is let's go ahead and let's go into the user admin role. And I'm going to assign a user as my user admin. I'm going to bring in Jean-Luc Picard. So I'm going to bring in Jean-Luc. I'm going to click on review and create. And again, I'm going to go ahead and create that. Now, remember, everything is the same. The only difference is I've clicked that restrictive admin checkbox, that restrictive management checkbox. Now, please note that this is not available in the Microsoft 365 portal yet, but I'm guessing that it won't be long before this comes in. So now what I'm going to do is I'm now going to add some members in here. So I'm going to bring in Beverly Crusher. I'm going to bring in Bianca. Let's have Bob Jones. Let's have Brian. And let's have, who shall we bring in? Let's bring in Christy. So I'm going to select those users. Again, I could also bring in groups and I could bring in devices as well. I've gone ahead already and set up the administrator, and now I'm going to go ahead and that's everything done, and you can see that I can add members and so on here. So in essence, I've now gone ahead, I've created the London office. You can see that you can also have membership type. Again, you can have dynamic user and also dynamic device membership here. Please note one thing, restricted management is now in effect. So once you've set this up, it's difficult to obviously configure it. Now, because Jean-Luc is now the administrator of this, let's pop over to his account and let's have a quick look at him logging in. So here I am, I'm logged in as Jean-Luc, and if I try and go into the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, of course it's going to take me straight to my administrative unit because these are the only users that I can actually manage. But it's actually more than that. Check this out. If I open up Entra or Azure AD, as it used to be known as, if I click into user accounts here, and if I go into, let's say, a Delve, this is a user for which I don't have the rights to manage. I can see the user account, but as you can see, the edit button is unavailable. However, if I go back into users and if I go and have a look at Beverly Crusher here, you can see that she is one of the users who is included in the admin unit, and you can see that you get a little message accordingly. Now, the interesting thing is what would happen now if I log back in as an admin, a global admin. Let's take a look. So I'm back here in my regular portal, and if I come back into my overview, you can see that I'm logged in as a global admin this time. So now again, I'm going to go into my users and all users, and of course I have the rights to manage everything and everyone. But this is where it gets interesting. So if I come back now into Beverly Crusher, you can see actually, even though I'm a global admin, I no longer have the rights to administer this account. How cool is that? So for super sensitive accounts in super sensitive locations, you can add and assign very restrictive management on these administrative units. Very nice feature. Before we go any further, just a quick word from this week's sponsor, Govern 365. Check it out. This video is sponsored by Govern 365, the ultimate solution for secure collaboration, virtual data rooms, and compliance in Microsoft 365. Brought to you by the geniuses at NetWoven, this game-changing tool simplifies and automates data protection in both SharePoint and Teams using Microsoft Purview sensitivity labels, while providing a powerful and highly customizable template-driven provisioning process, deep content inventory reporting, and powerful workspace recertification with smart disposition. Contact Govern365 today for a demo or to start a trial at govern365.com. Well, finally, it's out there, and at this week's Inspire show in the US, Microsoft finally took the wrappers off its long-awaited Copilot service, the new AI ChatGPT clone, which comes into Microsoft 365 and, in fact, all Microsoft products. So it's now going to be available. We know it's available in the E3, E5 business premium plans, but the downside is it's going to cost you $30 a month or the local equivalent. Now, in addition to that, Microsoft are also releasing the new Bing Chat Enterprise tool, which will actually be free for many enterprise customers. In addition, though, for non-enterprise customers, there may be an additional charge of up to $5 a month. So watch out for that. So when you consider that the E3 plan is coming in at $36, then ChatGPT at $30 a month, is it too high? What do you think? I would love to know what you think. But there you go. It's coming out. Finally, the Microsoft Copilot service. Personally, I'm really looking forward to the Security Copilot. And as soon as I've got more details on that, of course, I'll let you know. Also coming out on the back of Inspire is news about Teams. Now, Teams continues to be just one of those products that you just simply can't go through all the changes. There are just literally hundreds of changes, notably in the client software. Now, in the admin changes, I'm going to be doing a dedicated session on this in the not too distant future. But definitely things to note is that gone is the 200 channel limit per team, and now you can have up to 1,000 channels per team, which is absolutely huge. You've also got things like rolled up chat. So if you've got like a gazillion chat messages, you can now roll all of those up. And for that, most of all these settings you'll be able to find in the Manage Account settings. Many of these settings will be available to your users here. And of course, you'll also be able to configure them in Microsoft 365 Admin Center as well. Now, just occasionally, a little feature pops along that you think, that's an interesting one. And for me, if you pop into settings, into organizational settings and security and privacy, it's this one here. This is Pronouns. Now, it's been out a little while, but essentially what this means is when you turn on and allow pronouns, if you go into a user account and let's say, for example, you do an email of a distribution list and I send out an email to everybody in the sales list, for example. Well, it means that users can go into their properties and they can add in additional pronouns for their name or for their user account. So, for example, if I'm responding to the sales team, I might just say, email them. And by saying email them, it will include everybody in the team. How cool is that? A really, really simple feature. But again, be careful. It could come back and bite you. Now, sticking in the 365 Admin Center settings, you'll notice that we have something here called Microsoft Edge. And Microsoft Edge here allows you to create configuration profiles. And with those configuration profiles, you also have policies as well. So, for example, you can control things like what websites users can access through the browser, what extensions they can run, and so on. And this is a fantastic managed service. So simply add a profile. So in here, I'm going to add my Oslo Edge profile. You can put in a little description, of course, and I'm just going to go ahead and set up the profile. You can see that that's now been done. So now that the profile has been done, let's click into the profile and I can now add policies. So you can add both policies, extensions, and of course, I can assign it to a group. So I'm going to go ahead and literally there are a whole bunch of different policies here that you could use. So for example, I could say allow access origin prompt, and I could say, yeah, I want to enable this. Do I want to add in any other policies? I could, yes. So let's go in and, well, first of all, I'll go ahead and save that. Now that I've done that, I could say, let's have another one. So what else do we want to do? So again, I can scroll down. I can say, I'm just going to choose any one here. So you can see, you can choose your policies and you can add in multiple policies here, multiple restrictions. Of course, this is the kind of thing that we used to do in group policy. Now, in addition, you can also configure the extensions as well. So you can, if you want to add in any specific extensions or manage them, again, you can either import them and you can also export them as well. So once you've configured all of this, of course, I now want to assign this to my Oslo group. And in this case, I'm going to set this up for my Oslo engineering group. So there you have it. I've created a profile. I've added some policies to that profile, and you can see I can now deploy that to that particular group like so. How cool is that? Now, my final piece of news this week is the introduction of Microsoft Entra's Global Secure Access Program. This is super exciting, and this is Microsoft's dipping its toes into the Microsoft Security Service Edge, or SSE solution. So essentially, Microsoft will now provide access to its global data center network for both secure internet access and also private access as well. If you're currently paying for dedicated lines or expensive VPNs, this can be a fantastic solution. And of course, you can extend this to Microsoft's Zero Trust model. So not only can you manage any device with any identity, but you can also configure and secure that remote network with the likes of tools like conditional access as well. So to get started, simply come into the Entra Admin Center and you can see here that we've got Global Secure Access, which is currently in preview. Now, just a quick mention about that, once you sign up for the preview, so assuming that you've signed up, you'll then be prompted to get started. Now, currently it supports 3 models or 3 different settings. It provides the internet access. Now, this is only available as a private preview at the moment, and in fact it's so private that there's no way to apply for it at the moment. The other one is Microsoft Entra Private Access. So let's say you've got a branch office environment and you want to grant access to let's say an application or something like that, then this is going to be fantastic. The other solution, of course, is granting secure Microsoft 365 access. And it all basically starts down here. So to get started, if you come in here, it walks you through the step-by-step guide here and everything that you need to know. But essentially, the way to get started is you need to download a client. And you can download the Windows 10 or 11 client here. Please note that the device must be Azure AD joined as a prerequisite. Well, Andy, what about other clients? Well, you're in luck. There are plans for other clients, including Android and iOS. So watch out for those in the not too distant future. So essentially, you get started simply by downloading the client. and that's it. Once the client is then active, it will then appear here in the dashboard. And once it's on the dashboard, obviously remote networks, this is if you want to connect to, let's say, the likes of a branch office. So remote networks works a little bit like an application proxy. You drop the agent onto the network and everything then lights up. Now, of course, on a private network, once you've got the private network access, you can then provide quick access or access to enterprise-based applications. Everything is configurable through the global settings. And in the global settings here, we have a couple of things. Enable tagging to enforce tenant restrictions on your network, so you can tag things. And if you're using conditional access, you can basically switch this feature on in conditional access. And this is enable global access, secure access, signaling, and conditional access. So basically, if you're working with compliant devices, this will then light up that. Beyond that, you get all the logging, and of course in the security you can then start to configure security profiles. Again, it's in private preview at the moment, so I can't demo this at the moment. Now, watch out for a future session on this. I'm going to do a complete step-by-step guide on getting you started. But for now, there we go. That's the GSA or Global Secure Access Preview now available. So there you have it, Microsoft 365 for August 2023. A lot of really nice stuff, and I'm looking forward to really getting my hands dirty with some of that cool stuff that's coming soon. Hey, listen, if you enjoyed this session, of course, bump the subscribe button up there, ring the bell, come and join our great learning community. And if you've got comments and questions, as always, just get those down below. And a huge thank you to our sponsor, Govern 365. And of course, you can find out more details about those in the links and the description below. Okay, that's it for this time. I'll see you next time. Have a great week. Hey, thanks so much for dropping by today. Here's a couple of videos that you may enjoy, and while you're here, go ahead, click on the subscribe button and you won't miss out.